And often people have a vision here and they've got activity over here and they don't match. And that's where the tension comes from. I've got this dream life, but I've got myself caught up in a spin of all the busyness of what I should do. And anytime someone uses the word should, it usually means it's an idea they've heard on a podcast or a book or from another business colleague. And it's what they're doing. So they think, oh, I should do that too. And they haven't really crafted their own version of business and life.
Welcome to this episode of Marketing Your Practice. We're very excited. We chatted with Mark Dobson. Mark's a high-performance coach. He's coached Olympic athletes, corporate athletes, world
gold medalists,
world record holders, all that. And we wanted to dive into some of those traits that these elite athletes or corporate athletes have to get stuff done. And Mark dived into the difference between being busy and being productive and how that can help you get your practice to where you want to go. And a really important thing that we went through was that delineation of saying, well, are you busy, but is it actually getting you to your goal? And if we don't know what that goal is, if we don't know what we want from our practice and what we want from our life, how are we going to be able to get there? It was really cool because it went a different direction.
Well, I was at one of Mark's morning programs a couple of months ago, and he said something that was quite profound. He says, I can tell what's important to your life if I just have a look inside your diary. And I looked at my diary, and it was full of things that weren't actually moving me forwards in the direction where I wanted to go. So in terms of being productive, I think you hit a point. It's not just about you getting more done if you're getting more done of the wrong things as well. So we talk about the importance of starting with vision first, and how when you get really clear about your vision, there's a whole bunch of things on your to-do list that just kind of drop off as well. So
absolutely, and he goes through a really great example of that with an elite athlete wanting to be a motocross world champion.
Yeah.
Really fascinating. You'll love that little example that he gives. Yeah, for sure.
So if you wanted to find a future where you're getting to the end of the week, where you're feeling fulfilled, where you're moving towards the future that you're wanting to have, then this episode is absolutely for you as well. Fascinating chat. Loved what he had to share with us as well. And this episode is brought to us by
the video checklist. So if you want to have a checklist of things that'll make you produce greater quality videos more effectively and more efficiently, then head on over to adiomedia.com/29 and you can download the video checklist that we've put together. Great little document to have with you.
In the theory or the theme of getting more done with less, nothing has more impact in your community in terms of building trust, authority, expertise, even celebrity if that's what you're after, than making videos. This is a little checklist that Tony and I have put together, which means the videos that we make are professional. We've got full batteries, good sound, all those kind of things as well. So where do they go?
adiomedia.com/29. Enjoy.
See you in there. Bye.
Mark Dobson, welcome to the Marketing Your Practice podcast.
Mate, I've been hanging out to be here. It's taken you too long to call me. It's fine, but I'm happy to be here today.
We'll just take the opportunity when it comes. No matter where you are, we will have you on. So great to speak again, buddy. We're looking forward to diving deep.
And we've obviously you've had to come downstairs from your palatial mansion as well to talk to us.
You know what's happened is that I had a speaking function around the corner. So I contacted a friend and said, mate, I need your house in a heartbeat. And so just for the record, these pink cushions are not mine.
That's what I always say.
I just imagine the conversation too, buddy, I need your house this afternoon to shoot some videos. He's like, what's going on here? So
he's a pretty liberal friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very nice. Well, I'm going to go. We have a lot of people, and I think all of us get into sometimes a little bit of overwhelm. But when we're talking to health practitioners about implementing marketing strategies, we're talking about making videos and releasing blogs and putting all this content marketing out there. We often hear the story of, it just sounds like it's going to take too much time. I haven't got time for that. I'm running a business. I've got a family. I've got kids. And there seems to be this sense of overwhelm for practitioners when they're looking at implementing new strategies. We thought you're the man to get on to break down some of those barriers, give some strategy on how to, I guess, maximize people's time and make it feel like that they can actually implement some of this stuff.
I think a large part of this is recognizing whether or not the activity you're taking is actually giving you a disproportional reward. You want a small activity that gives you a big reward. And especially if you look at, say, social media marketing, I'm not a big fan of just social media posts on their own right, just for the sake of it, post anything, because there's other activities like calling a potential client that is far more potent. And often people have a vision here and they've got activity over here and they don't match. And that's where the tension comes from. I've got this dream life, but I've got myself caught up in a spin of all the busyness of what I should do. And anytime someone uses the word should, it usually means it's an idea they've heard on a podcast or a book or from another business colleague. And it's what they're doing. So they think, oh, I should do that too. And they haven't really crafted their own version of business and life. And then that's when the anxiety comes up. So I'm a big one for, if you're saying the word should, you need to just essentially either drop that task completely or find a version of that suits how you roll.
So my outcome is, we're talking to mostly chiropractors, naturopaths, Chinese med practitioners, and they're wanting to have a practice that's more enjoyable, that's more predictable, that they know next week what they need to do to attract new business in. They know what they need to do next week to keep repeat business happening. And they're kind of trying to dip their toes into this world of marketing. And so they're telling themselves, perhaps I should be doing some marketing, but they've got a vision for where the practice is. They've got some steps that they think they need to be taking. In our case, Tony and I teach a lot of people to make videos, share about yourself, share helpful, valuable information and take them down the journey that ends up with them in your practice there too. So I've got that vision and then I've got some strategies. How do I work? Is there a process that you put people through or people can work through to go, yeah, look, that's a strategy that can probably push to the side. That's someone else's should, not my should?
Yeah. So businesses go through different stages, and at each stage of the business, there are different strategies going to be more helpful. One of the mistakes that people make with, say, social media and video, it's a very powerful tool, but sometimes I call it yelling to the universe. And they're yelling to someone who's not even a potential customer, trying to convert someone on the other side of the world who, click like. When, the content that you're talking about, and I've watched your content, because my wife and I have gone to see you, Angus, many times. It's like, well, when we get it, we already got a relationship with you. And when that video comes to me and I'm more educated, I'm more a prospective customer, then there's great return on that. So often people depending on the stage of business they're at, there's what video should I do and who do I focus on getting it to? Now, if people have been established beyond 6 years, 6 years is a natural tipping point where you get traction. When I started my business, I thought I'll be able to do it fast in 6 years, but sure enough, 6 years is the mark. You tend to just have customers come in after 6 years. Then you can really focus on broadening because you've got a customer base. But if I'm in the early stages of business, I really need to be focusing all my effort on the people that I'm actually interacting with, and then then they're going to look at the video. So, for example, I just met a whole lot of people. I spoke at a conference just now, and I've got a whole lot of resources that I give them. They've met me, and now these resources are highly valuable. If they had just seen it pop up on their feed, then that may work later when I'm more established in that industry, but that industry I'm quite new. So there's different stages of business, and I think we need to be kind to ourselves, realizing we need to be comparing our business to someone at a similar stage. Is that an okay answer, or is that a little bit frustrating?
No. I get it, because it's why some of these things. But if we could, so let's say that somebody's in their initial 6 years, they're new in practice, or they're starting a new practice. What kind of strategies should they be looking at to get in front of people to start to build some relationships? What's your experience? Where would you point somebody towards?
What's really going to help the most is if you get someone a great outcome, they're going to be a raving fan. We've probably heard the language. So if I'm going to do any kind of social media video, which you guys do, and I'm a massive rat for it, you want to make sure that you've got a whole lot of resources that you can give your customer, your present customer, so they definitely get the outcome and the progress. So in my early days, I want to make sure I'm definitely getting my present customers across the line. That's where you put your effort. Then they tell everybody. But if you're getting 1,000 likes, but you're not looking after your present customer, then you're going to be in all sorts of pain. And that's when people feel overwhelmed, because I call it, they're putting the emphasis on the wrong syllabus. They don't even know they're doing the same activities as everyone else, but the effort's in the wrong place. So the other thing is, it's really important to get a sense of what your boundaries are, because people just live busy and they live at a certain cadence. And so I've seen business owners that will land a deal and they'll bring in, say, 200 grand in a week, different industry, but 200 grand a week. But the next week they're still working just as hard because they haven't got a number of wins in enough. Like, when do you knock off? Like, for me, I'll never respond to an email or a text about business after about 6:30 at night, because I just don't work in the evenings. I don't want to. And once I've got that boundary in place, I then have to decide, how do I fit everything in? And I work out what's actually a priority and what's not. So most people in the early days of business have no boundaries. They hustle so hard to get the customer. Once they do have some customers, they then don't know how to wind the boundaries back. And so the way I started was, I decided that Saturday mornings are going to be mine. I never worked. That was just, I just had one, small patch. And then as you get further in business, you go, right, it's the whole weekend. And as you get further, for me at the moment, I do my best to work just 3 days a week. And that really pisses some people off because they're really pedaling hard. But what I've also focused on, and I think every business owner needs to, is, does it add up? If I'm very successful and the business runs, and it runs just as I hope it would, is there enough money to build what I think I'm going to build? Like, if I've got 100 customers, they're $50 each, it's 5 grand. Does that work? Does that pay my bills and pay me some money? And if not, then I'm going to have to change something, either the number of customers or the amount that I'm charging, my overheads. I don't think people do the maths, and therefore they're exhausted because they never get financially rewarded. And we only really rest when we know we've got some money in the bank.
Got it. So there's a fair bit that kind of it comes back in behind it, or it's not just as simple as, all right, I'm going to make some videos, I'm going to track some more people into practice there too. We talk about this concept in terms of practice. There's a before, during, and an after unit. And having and bringing in a whole bunch of new patients into a practice that's not, our number one rule of our practice magnifiers is be great at what you do. Because bringing more people into a system that doesn't have you getting great results is, you're just going to dig yourself into a bigger hole. But based on that, when I am great at what I am doing, but if I want to automate some stuff there as well, I'm like, okay, got it. I'm getting some good results with people there too. How do I automate finding new people, bring them into the practice so I can, expand, take the pressure off having to hustle all the time as well? Other strategies?
So part of that is actually looking at, how did that customer actually find us? So sometimes we get seduced into how we think things work. The classic is when people are trying to get a loan for property, everyone thinks that they need, say, 10% or 20%, they need to have a certain amount of income, but the rules are changing. And until you go, say, speak to a broker and they explain where you're at and where you need to be, people think that they speak fluent bank, and they don't. And the same thing happens with marketing, is that they hear what everyone else is doing without saying, well, with my community, how have they come in? And which of the videos I created have people watched? And what other problems they actually need help with? And rather than thinking, oh, I've got to do all these extra activities, it's what's actually potent. And I don't, for me, I've worked out that all my customers come down to just 4 relationships. Well, I said 3. There we go, 4. So there's 4 people. And these 4 people, I resource the hell out of them. So they get every video I create. They get every audio link. They get everything because they seem to publicize me the most. So I think it's really important for people to ponder, where are they actually coming from? Not where do I invent they're coming from? And then you can duplicate that. So for example, I have one client, he got his best client. He's a cinematographer, and he got beaten at a competition by another film. And so he loved the film, and he called the guy and congratulated him. And he was upset because it was a really good film and he congratulated him. That one phone call has brought him more work in the industry and has launched his career because he was actually just saying great work. He had no agenda besides that. So I'm like, can we repeat that? So not manipulatively call everybody, but if we feel like we should accredit somebody, we should say, well done, then that's a strategy. And then we can tell the people in our circle, hey, if you see something good, make sure you say that, because that's a powerful strategy. So I'm always looking at what actually works and then resource that process. Of course, he's actually, as a cinematographer, got a page of a whole lot of videos, which he says the guy can hop on and have a look at his work, which is really what you're trying to do, because you're duplicating the access they can get to you.
How would you see that working? I mean, you have a sister who's a chiropractor. You know more about the chiropractic industry than many chiropractors know. How do you see that kind of working? So if I've got, for instance, in my practice, a group of key people who continue to refer to me, How would we expand that process? You know, how could I leverage that?
So the first thing is that we need to continue to value the customer and not be focused on profits. As soon as people start to focus on profits, there's a problem. So you need to really value the customer. You have to crunch the numbers so you never have to look at it again. Right? So then we don't want to be in a situation where, on Friday I meant to call my customers and it feels like it feels fake. So we have to really care about the customer. Once we do that, then we can systemize. And what we're looking to do is to teach someone our decision-making framework. So Angus, when I first went there and I referred someone, you actually called me and said, thank you for referring so-and-so, which I thought was just fantastic. And we didn't know each other well at the time. And that was really significant, but you were sincere and you really looked after them. Now, that's as simple as the process was. It was that elegant. But you had an intent. And what's really important to teach the people around us is our decision-making framework. What do we think and how do we do it? So for example, when I fly into state, I used to book all my own flights because nobody would book them right. And then I realized, what I've worked out is if I'm flying to Sydney, I need at least an hour to drive to the place, probably half an hour stay on the taxi line back in those days. But if it was in winter, I need to leave an hour early because of fog. Once I wrote that down, that's my decision. Anybody could book the flights.
Right.
So as leaders, our job is to distill it into a recipe of actions, but make sure the person is doing it with the intent that we have. And when you called me, you weren't looking for another customer and you weren't trying to make me sell or asking for a referral. You were sincerely saying thank you. And that was felt in the call. So what we're doing is we're thinking like a recipe. What's the intent? And then what are the series of steps? And you make them as elegant as possible.
I love the word potent that you use, Mark. That's looking at your results from marketing or outreach or whatever it is, being potent in that. But what about being potent with our own time? We see a lot of procrastination, a lot of I'll get to it one day, and it never ends up happening. I know that you've got some great ideas on potency of time. So
the first thing is it's always vision. What are you actually trying to create? Because then that decides where you spend your time. So if I want a summer holiday, I'm not looking at Canada in the winter, right? Online. I make different decisions when I'm surfing. That's so obvious. But then people don't necessarily have a clear vision of what they're trying to create and what their business to look like. And so we need a vision, but some people have it too far off and some people have it too close. They try to achieve too much. You're looking for a milestone every quarter or so. Once we've got some vision, I need to know what we're trying to achieve. Then we're looking for the tasks. We want to systemize the tasks that get repeated. So if a classic one for me, I found that most of my time went emailing people back and forth about setting up a meeting. I'd email you, hey, when can you do this? They'd email me back. Yeah, I can't do that Wednesday. Can you do the following Wednesday? And I noticed all this time went on just setting it up. So I created a link to my diary, which I can send someone and go, look, you just book it in wherever it sits. And in one email, I could contact 100 people and they all book and it's all done. So we're looking, what's repeated, what happens all the time? And if I systemize that, then I know I'm going to get more time every week. Yep. But the first thing is that we would have to want to live differently. Some of us, our busyness is our importance. I've got so much on. And the Buddhists call busy a type of laziness because you don't actually have to really reflect, how is my business going? How is my leadership? How are my numbers? So the first thing I would be looking at doing, what's your vision? What do you really want to create? Look for something repeatable. And then in that time, you need to get guidance from some kind of mentor that can say, this is what I think your next chess move is. And the last thing I'd add on that is many people are trying to get their success in one chess move. It's 2 chess moves. Yeah. That's the big one. People are in a hurry. Just 2 chess moves.
It's interesting because I've caught myself in this with the conversation that we're having now. You know, I spent a half day with you when you were going through training. And one of the things that you said in there, to paraphrase, is let me have a look at your diary and I'll tell you what's important in your life. And it was one of them, and there was a number of profound things that you said that day, but that was one that really stuck to me. I went, okay, got it. So that idea of what, because we can get stuck in, and I was kind of almost after, give me some strategies to help our listeners with their time. You go, wait. Let's come back. Let's work out what your vision is. Like, what do you want your life to be like? Okay. Yeah. And then we can look at these things. What things are you doing all the time? Let's systematize those so you get some more time. Is the things that you're doing, because I don't want to, I get it. I always think I was wanting, show me a more efficient way for me to do my shit. It's like, hey, maybe you don't even need to do it.
Yeah.
And I could sense that in you, because I've hosted before, and you go, I want to listen to get value. And I actually emailed somebody this week emailed me and said that they're struggling in their footage. She plays for women's AFL, and she's Australian sport, and she's struggling. I emailed her back, and it took her, with some strategies, and it took her a week, and she said, when I got your response, I was so disappointed. It was so useless. And she said, and then after I slept on it for a week, I realized you're exactly right. And what's happening is we live in a community that's looking for a magic bullet.
Yes.
You get me on and people listen to me and go, that's amazing. And the next week they listen to someone else, and then they go and choose someone else, and they're looking for these drugs, like a little upper. And I'm like, but listen, if this is your vision, this is where you want to go on holiday, you want to go on a beach holiday, why are you Googling mountain resorts? It makes no sense. But unless you've got a vision, as some best guess, then we can't even decide what activity to do today. Yeah. And then, after that, as you said, then I look at your diary and I can see your diary going to get you there.
You've got a great story, mate. You had a client. Was it a BMX wanted to win the world championships or something? Was it BMX?
Oh, yeah, Brad. So Brad.
That might be a good example.
Yeah, so Brad says to me, he wants to hire me to be his coach, and he runs a motorbike company, and he's ranked 20 or 30 in the world at the time. And he says, I want to win the world championships in Vegas. And I said, fine, let's work on that. And so we shook hands, it was hired. And I said, so I'm hired? And he said, yep, absolutely. And I said, your dream, and you haven't got a hope in hell in winning this thing. And it's an absolute gospel true story. And he couldn't believe it. And he's got a mum as a mentor. He calls his mum and goes, Mum, Dobbo reckons I can't win Vegas. And he's annoyed. And she yells back from the other room and goes, sounds like you should listen to him. So he said, how do you even know that? I said, look at your diary. You've got the diary of a CEO. You don't have the diary of a world-class athlete. And he could see that clear as day. So then we started to change the diary, and it took some while because there's frustrations, because I might say, well, I think we need to move this and this and this. And his instinct is, yeah, but you don't understand. This is really important. So yeah, but we're going to have to shift what's important to get a different outcome. And as we keep holding that vision, the behavior or the items and activities to shift become clear. So then about 3 weeks later, he ended up, I said to him, I think you're a chance. And he said, I do too. And then he crashed his motorbike and stuffed his shoulder. And we said, we're like, oh, well, you can't do it now. And then he started to change his diary again. So he's literally off to chiropractor, and others rehabbed his shoulder. I said, I think you're a chance. And he came 11th that year and 4th the other year, and we're still a chance. But it's so clear. I'll tell you what the difference is, or how it transfers to most of your industry, the chiropractor. It's not CEO athlete. It's sole trader leader. They're still behaving like a sole trader. They haven't accepted that they're in charge of a team of people and a brand and a psychology and a movement. And they're just wanting everything to run itself. And I just want to be the chiropractor. Yeah. That's a sole trader psychology.
We see that a lot.
And it's interesting because when you say to chiropractors, naturopaths, why did you become a chiropractor? Here's their answer. I just want to help people. Like no one says, oh, I want to run a business and hopefully I can have 5 staff and deal with payroll and marketing and leadership and all that kind of stuff there too. So we kind of miss it out on that. I'd love some help with this. For me, for a long time, this idea of vision scared the pants out of me because I don't I see Mother Teresa and Tony Robbins' vision and I'm like, how do I, there was too much of a hurdle for vision because if I felt like I had to commit to it and then what if it changed and all those kind of things there as well. How do you help people establish and find a vision that's motivating and moving for them?
Okay, so vision is always general. So I say, I want to go on a holiday.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know where, I just know I need a break. Now, then if the next question is where, and you're like, snow or beach? I'm like, oh, probably beach. Now, some people don't care.
Yeah.
So it starts very general. And this is where people get stuck because they're trying to get specific. A goal is specific, but the vision is general.
Got it.
And it's allowed to be general. The other part of that is it's also allowed to change. The thing is, if we're not emotional, if we're in our head, we all want the same thing. We always want a body that's ripped. We want a lot of money. We want a fantastic relationship. We want to be on holidays all the time. We all want the same thing. But when you're emotional, you know what you really want. So I encourage people to put on their favourite song, not just in one moment. You've got to soak into it. It takes time. And you develop your vision over time. So you just think, well, what kind of holidays do I want? Or what kind of relationship? And you see somebody laughing, go, I want to laugh in my relationship. So it's very general. And you see in practice, you go, yeah, it's really funky. It's got good energy in there. Well, that person seems to be making good margin. That's very general. That's enough. The other thing is that a vision has an emotion. What's really happening is everybody that sets up a clinic is trying to give their clients a feeling, an emotion. So if you want them to feel healthy or a sense of well-being or calm, say, all right, if I'm passionate about having people feel well and healthy and connected, if I was to do that for 5 years or 10 years, what would probably be created? So if I'm a fun person, over 5 or 10 years, what would probably be created? Well, probably lots of parties, and there's probably some fancy fun, summer house maybe, or there'd be some practical jokes. That's an extension of a fun person. So to answer your question, it starts general, and it's 4 or 5 years off. People have got a different sense of duration, but it's an extension of an emotion that you want people to feel and you want to feel as well. Is that helpful?
Very, 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 very. I mean, it was just recently in the last 12 months that I read somewhere that someone just said that, look, you can actually have multiple visions, and that could be, here's my vision for this next 12 weeks, as opposed, for me, I was after, and still haven't found it, this one pivotal life calling that could be summed down into here's what I will do. And it caused a great deal of frustration for me for a long time. I've kind of worked in around that and reached a spot that just brings me a great deal of ease now. We talked about it before. I like this concept of a vision of life of expansion. And then I can play different games. Yeah, in my relationship, that's what, So it's been
expansion. So you've got one word. I want to expand. I want to help people around me expand.
Yeah.
And it can play a whole lot of different ways.
Yes.
See, we get obsessed with goals. And on my website, so I think it's still there. And if it's not, people can email me, but I'll give it to you guys. I don't care. I've got this book on goal setting, and the opening line is, you don't need them. And I make a really strong case.
Yeah.
Because you had a goal and you got it, and now you're miserable. So you think you need another goal. Well, hang on, you're miserable. It don't make any sense. The other thing is that when you've got a goal, there's a lot of anxiety that comes with it, because then you feel like a failure if you miss it and you don't know what you want. Anyway, I had somebody read that book and then email me and say, it's disgusting what's on your website. I came looking for elite performances, and then I read this tripe, and I emailed back and said, mate, isn't it funny? You came looking for elite performances, and when you found them, you didn't recognize them.
Yeah.
Because we regurgitate crap. And in the self-help industry, we read so many books, and we take the next idea and we push the idealism, and we get obsessed with, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to be somebody. You are somebody. You're done. It's done. So what are you going to do with somebody? And there's a feeling you want, and it's that simple. But people are looking for the complex. Like you said earlier, I'm looking for the key strategy. I'm like, it's easy.
It is almost like that drug, isn't it? Almost to give us that upper, as you said. But it's also, I think, a bit of a blocker in that it blocks potentially some hurt, some self-doubt, maybe some injury that's gone on in the past. And that can be a bit of a, the quick fix drug to go for the next shiny object. And, we're certainly guilty of that over times. But
we all are. Points. Yeah, so we all are. Look, I think we need to be kind to ourselves. Anita Moriarty says it really well in her book. And she just says, in the self-help community, we're very critical and mean to ourselves, because we're always thinking we should be able to do everything perfect. We think we shouldn't have a bad day. We shouldn't be tired, and we shouldn't be lost, and we shouldn't go through searching periods. And I try to be as honest as I can about this stuff. And also, but then people don't always believe it, because they think it's got to be harder. Like, for example, at school you were taught we only respect you if it takes a lot of time, it was really hard, and at the end you're tired. So you spend 4 hours on your homework. It was really hard. You made no progress, and now you're exhausted. And people are like, good job. They're working really hard. But you come out of that room dumber than when you went in. So it's not a good strategy. So now as an adult, we think unless it's hard, it takes a lot of time, and I'm exhausted, then I probably don't deserve any good feelings or any rewards. So we don't even look at the elegant strategy. We go, oh, it's different. It's different for me. You don't understand. All right, off you go.
So how do you counteract? Because that's a cultural belief there that I can certainly relate to. How do we push that to the side? Do we look for, what's a simple, elegant and eloquent kind of solution to this? How can I achieve more by doing less? What's the framework that you work through?
You must decide how you want to live, not what you want to achieve. So if I want to achieve a degree, I must accept that I'm going to have to do some late nights, have stress, not much money, living off 2-minute noodles, cramming. If I don't accept that, I will pull out of my university experience because I just want to achieve a degree. So now I look for some dicey way to get it. You can buy them online for $60. So the question is, how do you want to live? And then say, hey, I want to live quite casual. I want to live relaxed. I want to live present with my family. Then we start to notice, I think I'm going to make a mess of this, what the Buddhists call the samosa, what is it, that word for the illusion? I've forgotten the word, embarrassed, but the illusion that we need to achieve something. There's nothing to achieve. There is something to be and to strut and express. There is nothing you need to achieve. Now, granted, at different stages of life, we will feel a different pressure. Wayne Dyer's got a great model, and I'm not sure where he got it from, but he says, there's 3 stages of life. The first stage is the athlete, and that's where you take on anything. And you're so capable. I'll play basketball and cricket and soccer. And we do that we don't know what our career is. We jump around. And then we become the warrior where we choose one thing and we're going to make it happen. And then we become the statesman. And the statesman's where we want to help other people move into what they're capable of. And we've discovered a certain wisdom. So at each stage, we still want to have some success. I want to have played lots of things, participate as an athlete. And then there is a time in our life where we want to choose one thing and achieve it so we know we can. And that's fine. So a lot of my work, people say to me, hey, I want to win a medal. I'm like, okay, I appreciate you're on a spiritual journey. You're moving somewhere. This is a stage you're in. I'll help you do this. But I see the longevity of who you're going to be later and how you're going to serve a community. So there are some people that it's not so much an illusion, it's where they're participating right now. But once you finish participating, then realise it's just a game. So I'm not anti-achievement. I'm just pro choosing how you want to live and not buying into the crap.
And then are you suggesting that, and I can see for me, that how I want to live needs to be an overarching, because if I decided that I want to live a life of peace, of connection, of presence, I could say I could even run that filter through. Okay, I'm going to start a degree now. And remember, because there's a way of, there were always people at uni that, tended to be up late, starting stressed the whole time. But there was other people too that achieved really well who were present and enjoyed the whole way through it. It's kind of, that's a theme that could kind of run through everything and guides, bringing it back to where we started. I let that guide my to-do list.
That's right.
Yeah.
So for me, a client will say to me, I'll work for some pretty big companies, and they'll be like, I'll say, can you write a report on that? I'm like, no, I don't do reports. No one's going to read it, and I'm going to hate doing it. You hired the wrong guy. And some people go, I can never do that. I'm like, yeah, you can. You're just scared. And you just haven't got the clarity of who your actual customer is and how you want to roll. I remember when we got married, I had 6 groomsmen, and they flew in from all around the world, which was, it was a really special experience. But we hired to marry us Greg Evans, who used to host Perfect Match. And he was fantastic and hilarious. But when he started, the groomsmen were everywhere, and he felt like it's time to get ready. He starts going, come up to me, he goes, Mark, we need the groomsmen. He starts yelling, groomsman, groomsman. And I said, Greg, we don't yell. We don't yell. We don't need to. I'm like, hey, Dane, can you get the groomsmen? And it was done. But we've got different ways we go about it. Now, I wasn't judging him. I didn't get all elitist. I'm so spiritual and calm. I just don't want to yell. It seems rude. So once we choose that, it plays out in all sorts of places. The thing is that you'll also have times when it doesn't work, because we live in a world of polarity. There'll be times when it just implodes and you find yourself yelling and you're embarrassed, you're mortified and you hate yourself, but you find the boundaries of this and you master the being where you being.
So nice. It reminds me of the yoga principle of, is it a yama or a niyama, called the act of non-striving. Just stop striving, being present and just understanding the beauty of who we are in this moment. It's great.
So
really great.
I love hearing you say that, Tony, because I'm like, if you think about the greatest things that happen in your life, my bet is they fell in your lap.
Absolutely. It's the seemingly fell in my lap. Yep.
You play your role. You know, like if you're going out to meet a chick at a bar, you put on some decent shoes and a shirt, right? But there's other times when we try to force it to happen. Like one of my books, I released it the day that the Red Door Group and Borders went under. So I had 7,000 ordered, but on the day of release, national media campaign, there's only 300 and something in stores across the country because the Red Door Group went under. All the bookstores went under. Then there's another time when, out of the blue, President Obama acknowledged a project we worked on in New York City. I wasn't trying to achieve anything. I was just getting on with life. And then out of the blue, we get this ridiculous acknowledgement. I think even your friends, if you think about your friends, it's not like you were like, I'm going to find the best friend and you invented a friend. The people that came into your life are people you couldn't even imagine what they were like. Like you couldn't invent them if you tried. As a matter of fact, part of it, you go, I wouldn't even ask for that. That's an annoying quality. But they fell in your lap. And my passion is to master the allowing and the unfolding, but still play my role in that. So not passively just tracked. Like I hustle, but I'm listening. Like, does it feel like exertion? You know, and it's a very difficult thing to master. When am I pushing hard and I need to keep going? And when is it time for me to actually, I'm pushing hard and it's foolish? And I think it's a really difficult area to master. And I don't have a good framework there yet.
It was a conversation that we had yesterday around a project that we're working on. For us to decide early on in that, when will we know to stop? Was interesting, and we couldn't come up with, we talked about different options and stuff like that too. And that is that, you know, when is this a hurdle that we need to jump because it'll make something greater of us? And then when is this I feel
the signpost
that says, stop, enough, go somewhere else. You know, it's a
tricky one.
And
that's a big discussion, actually. Like I've talked about this at length with some other friends, and I'm happy to explore it one day. But I agree, I've got some ideas on it, but not in the 3 minutes we've got left.
Let's do a round two, and we'll dive in and see if we can solve those problems.
I'll see if my friend's house is available again.
I want a different house next time. I want this whole kind of rock style lifestyle, different houses, a bit of, you know, where is he now type sort of routine too.
Honey, I'll be there in a second. That's not even my wife upstairs.
Jeez. A bevy.
Out, Tony.
No, that's definitely in there. That's going to be on the promo. So
that'll be the introduction. Absolutely.
We'll edit that into the start there too, a part of our intro clip there too. Mark, I just want to acknowledge it. It's so, you know, I'm sitting here full with the idea of what I was wanting to achieve. And there's a certain level of selfishness in all of these interviews, because we interview people that not only do we think our audience will relate to too, but, you know, what do I want to hand with too? And this idea of like, cool, I'm looking forward to how Mark can kind of help me achieve a little bit more and some strategies for me to prioritize some stuff around there too. And what I got from today is, Angus, go back to your vision. What is that? What do you want it to look like? Assess the things that are on, and my diary doesn't at the moment. It got onto it for a little while after we hung out last time, but it doesn't reflect what I want, you know, my vision at the moment there too. And I think, you know, the best thing that I could do to get more time and presence in my day is just that, without any tips or strategies. So, buddy, thank you very much. Profound.
It's always a pleasure. I enjoy chatting to you two boys.
So,
Tony, thank you.
We'll be sure to see if we can find around too. If people want to find you, bud, where's the best spot they should go to get more of this wisdom?
So my nickname's Dobbo, DOBBO.com.au. You got to put the AU on, otherwise you end up in a steel company in Poland or something. But get there, there's a resource button, and there's quite a lot of me presenting these ideas, particularly around time, and maybe some delegation. I can't remember what's up, but it'll be up. But there's quite a few resources there. So go to the website, and and they're welcome to come along to all the events we've got. But the website's a good resource right now.
Yeah. Perfect place to start. Dobbo.com.au. Get on and consume some of those wonderful resources. Mark Dobson, thanks for being part of the podcast.
It's always a pleasure, boys. All right, I'm coming, honey.
Great chatting.
See you, mate.
See you, mate.
See ya. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
ready to go.
How was your little presentation this morning?